unrecognised call centre numbers. And the reason people just soldier on when ill isn't because of stiff upper lip, it's because they can't afford to feed their families otherwise. So surely, after months and months, it is now obvious that people, low-paid people like care workers, that their forecasts are based on the fact that, quote, a less effective test, trace and isolate system necessitates So, right, will they accept that the current model, that the Serco model has failed? I'm not against using the private sector, but I am against throwing shed loads of taxpayers' money at failing private sector contracts, Mr. Speaker. Local authorities, especially those now in Tier 3, should be leading this retrospective contact tracing work, and they should be given the data from on so they can get on with health grants. Surely this is a time when we should be investing in public health, not using the grant. Now, on the easements for Christmas, there will indeed be relief from families across the country, but he will understand that there will also be nervousness across the NHS. We need a clear public health message. Asking people to be jolly careful is not good enough. He will know that January is an immensely busy and pressured time for our NHS. It's not just the patients filling up COVID beds, it's the emergency pathways which are already running at hot. It's the immense elective backlog. We know there are less beds because of social distancing. We know staff allows life to return to normal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The goal of the government is to bring R to below the virus, and that is the strategy. Taking the precise points that the Honourable Judge he asked for an exit strategy. The statement I outlined is the exit strategy. It is to keep this virus with economy and indeed to education, whilst we work as hard as we can towards a vaccine. Use of community testing, widespread piece to where we need to get into, and that's why we do it in combination and hand in hand with the local. I praised Joanne's other local leaders, Ben Houchin in the Tees Valley, who's working with us on this, Andy Street and leaders across the West Midlands, Dan Jarvis in South Yorkshire, who we're working with to get a community testing system up and running in places like Doncaster. I want to see this community testing, which has been successful in Liverpool, rolled out right across the Tier 3 areas as much as is possible, and I invite all councils to engage. We engaged with councils and invited them to engage ahead of the decisions today, and we also invited all colleagues from around the House to put their input in. But it is important that we have clear public health messaging, because unfortunately we did see the impact on the number of cases going up and continuing to go up in those areas where local leaders were not working alongside us, and it was a sharp contrast to what happened, for instance, in Liverpool, but also in other areas where the local leadership were so constructive and positive. He asked for a scorecard in terms of the exit strategy. I think that's a good idea. We publish this data. If we can make it into an even more accessible format, I think that is a good idea. He asked about supporting the NHS. Absolutely, and I'm delighted that yesterday my right honourable friend, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, with the support of the Prime Minister, put another £3 billion into the NHS on top of the £6.6 billion that's already being invested, and that money starts flowing this financial year for this winter and then runs into next year. He also mentioned the need to support people who tested positive. We've put in place a £500 support payment. And on test and trace, NHS test and trace, Mr. Speaker, I thought from the figures this morning he would have welcomed the fact that the majority of in-person tests are now turned around within 24 hours. Really significant progress on the speed of turnaround in testing, for which I am very grateful to my team. There will be further support for local councils that find themselves in tiers 3 and 2 to support the action that is needed. But all in all, Mr. Speaker, let us come together and work together to get this virus under control, keep it under control, so that we can get life back to normal as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I welcome the Prime Minister back from his splendid isolation to the place he has no doubt been itching to get back to more than any other, this House of Commons, and say how wonderful it is to see him here. And thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think from a sedentary position, the Prime Minister said he was delighted to see me here. These are very difficult decisions, and indeed delighted to see me here on the back benches. Turning to more serious matters, Madam Deputy Speaker, these are very difficult decisions, and part of the leadership you have to show in a pandemic is telling people unwelcome news, and I want to salute the Health Secretary's cautious approach to Christmas, because much as we all want Christmas to be as normal as possible, nothing would be more crazy than to take our feet off the accelerator at this moment and then see a spike in deaths in February. And so I think this is the right approach. There is one bit of further good news on top of the news about vaccines, on top of the news about mass testing, which I know he would like to be able to give and would be enormously welcome, and that is if every single person living in a care home could be sure that they could be visited by a close relative before Christmas. Now, I know he wants to do that, but there are huge logistical challenges in getting that mass testing technology to work in time. Could I just urge him to do everything he can, because that would make such a big difference to the nearly 400,000 people in care homes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I hesitate to interrupt the love-in between the Prime Minister and my predecessor. But I'm grateful to his support. I'm grateful to their support. And this is a set of difficult measures, but I think the public understands why we have to take them and why they are necessary. On the point about getting visiting going in care homes, he's absolutely right. You know, sometimes we talk about these tests and this new technology in an abstract way or from a scientific point of view, but it really matters. And it really improves people's lives. And where we can use testing to make visiting safe in care homes, that is an example of the sort of thing that these new technologies can help to get life a little bit back towards normal. Of course it's got to be done in a safe way, and of course it's got to be done carefully, but we are now developing the protocols for exactly how that can happen, and working hard with the goal that everyone should have the opportunity to visit a loved one in a care home before Christmas.
And now we go to Dr. Philippa Whitford.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Many scientists have expressed concern that
we will keep an ear on proceedings in the House of Commons. I'm going to take a news bulletin, and then when we return we'll start picking over some of the consequences of the announcements that have just been made. LBC's political editor Theo Osherwood stays with me, as I hope you will. It's 4 minutes after 12.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at midday, Manchester, Newcastle, Birmingham and Leeds are among the areas which will be under the toughest coronavirus restrictions when lockdown is lifted next week. It means all pubs, restaurants and indoor entertainment will have to stay closed. Liverpool and London are in Tier 2, along with most of the rest of the country. The Health Secretary Matt Hancock has set out the allocations in the Commons in the past half hour.
We must keep suppressing the virus while supporting education, the economy, and of course the NHS until a vaccine can make us safe. We will do this by returning to a tiered approach, applying the toughest measures to the parts of the country where cases and pressure on the NHS are highest, and allowing greater freedom in areas where prevalence is lower.
The Scottish Government is urging people to keep their Christmas bubbles to a maximum of 8 people. The rule is part of the government's guidance for the festive period, which temporarily relaxes some COVID-19 restrictions for 5 days from December the 23rd. Our reporter Fraser Knight has more details.
It says while 3 households will be allowed to meet up over the festive period, only one of those can include an extended household. We're being told to keep a 2-metre distance from others in the bubble as much as possible, but we won't be allowed to socialise in shops or restaurants. Students returning home from uni will count towards the household they're going back to, but underlining all this, the government's making clear if you don't need to meet others, you shouldn't feel you have to.
Latest figures appear to show coronavirus infections are levelling off across the UK. The Office for National Statistics says in the 7 days to Saturday, 1 in 85 people in England had COVID-19. There were more than 31,000 fewer cases than the week before. There's been a drop in rates in Wales and Northern Ireland in recent weeks, though an increase in Scotland. Mitchell & Butlers, which owns All Bar One in Harvester, has announced to cut more than 1,000 jobs. It already said several premises would have to close as a result of the pandemic. And students could be awarded financial compensation for lost teaching time during the first COVID-19 lockdown. The Higher Education Watchdog has recommended in one case that the university pay £1,000 to an international student. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was down 36 points at 63.54. The pound buys $1.33 and €1.12. And the weather, most parts dry with light winds and sunny spells. Cloudy in the far south with a chance of some rain at times. Chilly for many, a high of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom, I'm Dominic Ellis.
It's Black Friday at Talk Talk. Say goodbye to 2020 and hello to a huge deal with the first 3 months free on our 24-month fibre plans. So say bye to broadband bills until 2021 and hi to average speeds of up to 145 megabits per second, a powerful Wi-Fi hub and no mid-contract price rises. Take a broadband bill break with 3 months free fibre. Search Talk Talk Black Friday. Talk Talk for everyone. Offer in 2nd of December. T's and C's apply. Subject to local availability. £4.95 post and packing where router is required.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
12:07 is the time. It's quite helpful sometimes being on air because this sort of weird rehabilitation of Jeremy Hunt, man who essentially filleted our National Health Service, it rather sticks in my craw. Matt Hancock is still on his feet, but we know now more than the broad brushstrokes. We now know the finer detail of what has been announced with regards to the new tier system into which we will move on Wednesday. Creditably, and I know you're thinking I've been abducted and replaced with some sort of clone, but I'm not as cross as I thought I was going to be. I don't know what they could have done better. In fact, they may form the basis for my phone in between now and 1 o'clock. But they have published, you remember the word we kept using, rationale? They've published the rationale and it goes region by region. So although there probably wasn't time to do that, if you picked, and I'll do it at random, I've got the Humber, which is in Tier 3. The picture in Humber is improving, with case rates now falling in 3 of the 4 lower tier local authorities. However, case rates in all ages and in over 60s remain very high. Positivity is 12.6%, and there is ongoing pressure on the local NHS. So not only can you find out what tier you are in, you can also find out why. And I think, again, everything I do it for you. No, everything I do, you are welcome to pick apart in all the usual ways. But I'm not as exercised by the border issue as everybody else seems to be. In fact, I think it's probably got more to do with constituencies than anything else. So if you're the MP of a constituency that contains relatively safe levels, but you get lumped in with a neighbouring constituency where things are much tougher, you have to make these noises because you think it's politically advantageous to you. But in fact, if I have to cross the road or you know, drive for 2 miles to move from an area where the pubs are shut to an area where the pubs are open, I'm going to do it. So therefore, shut them both. Do you see what I mean? Have as few borders as possible rather than as many. So lots and lots and lots of small areas, all observing different tiers, I put it to you, would be even dafter than what has gone before.
You're fucking daft.
So 10 minutes after we have cleared our switchboard like a 1970s Etch-a-Sketch, and the question I have for you obviously is, what do you reckon? 0345 6060 973. If I asked you how this could have been handled better at this point, and built that upon a cautious suggestion with that constant better late than never refrain ringing in our ears, then I can't currently see what they should have done differently or could have done better. All right, that's just my cautious suggestion to you. So I know that the pub thing is hurtful, and I know that a lot of people are suffering, but somebody is always going to have to suffer. We're all going to have to suffer. It's just varying degrees of suffering that they are presiding over. What do they prioritise? I worry, and Theo might have some thoughts on this, I worry that Boris Johnson prioritises backbench unhappiness higher than he actually prioritises objective national interest. For example, this feels like a sort of holding tactic, a way to avoid perhaps another national lockdown. So I don't know, but let's get the phone lines open. How do you feel about my cautious suggestion that this is the least bad of the various options that were in place? 0345 6060 973. I'm going to withdraw my cautious defence of the website crashing. All right, I got that one wrong. That is inexcusable. The more I think about it, the more I wonder whether I have actually been abducted and replaced by a Conservative supporting clone. Because if you're going to launch a website on a day like today with the entire country on tenterhooks, the least you can flipping do is make sure that it works. So I withdraw my cautious defence of the website crashing. That's withdrawn. I now offer a cautious defence of the whole shebang, the entire new tier system. Obviously, if you've woken up in the last 10 minutes to find that you're in tier 3, you're going to be spitting nails. But tough. Someone's got to be in tier 3. Deputy editor of the Mail has tweeted, and I don't have any ability to check his mathematics, but this is quite interesting. I've done it by numbers. So you've got in tier 1, which is small as you know, Cornwall, Isles of Scilly, Isle of Wight. It's about 1% of the population, so about 713,000 people in tier 1. Tier 2 and tier 3, you don't need to be Carol Vorderman or indeed Rachel Riley to calculate that they're going to then contain 99% of the population, split thusly. Tier 2, 32,226,170 people, or 57% of the population, and tier 3, 23,347,218 people. What is the difference between tier 3 and lockdown? Nothing.
No, there's very little. No,
so
no,
almost half.
No, apart from of course, all non-essential shops are going to be open. So, and religious venues are going to be open.
Yes.
So that's a crucial difference. In terms of the hospitality sector, there is no difference. But in terms of all non-essential shops are going to be open, and you don't have to stay and the onus isn't that you stay at home unless you need to go out.
Yes.
So you can now go out, get on with your business, although you should, if you can work from home, continue to work from home.
Got ya. And obviously you can't continue to work from home if you work in a shop.
And of course, in terms of national restrictions lifting, communal worship, weddings and outdoor sports can resume as well as a result of the national lockdown being lifted.
And all universities, schools stay open?
Yes.
Because I think, I shouldn't have said that. Sam's in Egham. Sam, how can I help?
I just think what you could have done better is to announce on plan for universities' return in January. So we've got something fairly well worked out for getting them home, but getting them back without testing them seems dumb.
Are you being unkind? Are you expecting too much? I don't know. It's not a rhetorical question. I mean, they've covered an awful lot of ground, and you're suggesting that they should have covered all of it, perhaps?
No, just alluded to it. That they had some forward plan. If they had. I mean, who knows? Maybe they don't.
What are we worried about? We're worried about a repeat of what we saw at the beginning of this term.
Well, I'd like to see evidence that won't happen. How will they ensure that won't happen? Campus universities have local management.
Every
local
fucking
decide what to do in terms of their own finances. They're run as businesses. It's obviously an incentive for them to get students back on campus and paying their rent.
Yes, well that was...
and there's been no mention of that.
What would it look like, Sal? I can't quite understand how I've ended up being in the government's corner at the moment. I'm sure it won't last.
What it would look like is saying, we're testing you all before you're coming home, and we'll test you all when you come back. That was all.
Oh, I see. Well, there's still room for that, I suppose. But yeah, I see what you mean. So I always think of Eton College at this point, which is profoundly unhelpful because the very words carry so much baggage. But any educational establishment that started last term with tests for absolutely everybody turning up was able to isolate people who were infectious. If they could do mass testing in Liverpool, maybe they could do mass testing in all universities. But I'm still going to stay on the side of cautious defence of Matt Hancock for now on this very specific issue. Okay, 12:15 is the time.
The fight against coronavirus. For the very latest, stay with LBC.
At Lidl, we're big on the best Black Friday deals, with brands like Sharp, Panasonic, Vax, NutriBullet, Tassimo, and many more. In Lidl stores from Friday the 27th of November. When it's gone, it's gone. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes NI.
Your face mask. It may look good, but does it offer the protection for others and your loved ones against COVID-19? Copper Clothing have created a face mask that does just this. COVID-19 could live on a normal unwashed face mask for up to 7 days, but Copper Clothing's copper-infused face mask destroys 99.99% of COVID-19 in a matter of minutes, and it has certified filtration. Which one would you rather have? One that just looks good, or one that's also certified by Colorado State University? Go to copperclothing.com now to order yours. Stay safe.
I know it's here somewhere. I just had the tab open, but which one? There's a million. Oh, not that one, not that one. Where are you, you shiny little phone? Oh, I know, search history. Oh, get rid of that. And that, delete.
Your search is over. Our best ever Black Friday is here. Save up to £400 on the stunning Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. Search your tool Black Friday.
On select tariffs, £40 off device plan and £360 airtime discount based on 36-month contract. O2 Refresh credit by Telefonica UK Limited. Eligibility and terms apply.
Ah, the great British roast. When mobiles are set aside, the TV goes off, the family comes together, and everything stops. For the perfect roast, only Bisto Best Gravy will do. Made with real meat juices for that authentic, rich roasted flavour. Ah, Bisto.
When was the last time somebody bought something from your website? In fact, if you didn't have to pay money to search engines, would you be able to sell anything at all? With Golgi, you don't even need a website to sell your stuff online. Just go to golgi.com, add your name and product list, and start selling. Simple, right? The best part, Golgi doesn't take upfront fees or commission. It's all about you and your customers. So why make selling online complicated? Let Golgi do the hard work for you. Want to sell? Golgi.
That's GOLLGI.com. This is the sound of business owners bossing their day with Sage.
Fish delivery, bossed. Invoices, sorted.
Clients work out, boss. Expenses smashed.
Tax return done.
Take control of business. New financial tools from Sage. Boss it. Get 6 months free then from £12 at sage.com. Terms and conditions apply. Have you heard the tale of Santa? A twinkle in his eyes. Never mind his Lidl's veggie main and great value salmon side. Lidl's deluxe vegan sharing Wellingtons for $2.99 and whole salmon side for $9.99. Lidl.
You got a Christmas you can't believe in.
Subject to availability, selected stores excludes NI.
This Black Friday, get super reliable Sky Broadband Superfast for just £25. And now with anytime calls. So everyone can stream, game and share. Because we guarantee you get the speed we promise or money back. It's now only £25 a month for 18 months plus £19.95 setup. For new and existing customers, hurry to sky.com. Offer is November 30th. Prices may change during contract. Sky Fibre area speed varies by locations. Average download speed 59 megabytes. Speed to hub must drop below minimum download speed 3 days in a row. 1 month's refund more at sky.com.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
19 minutes after 12. This is an interesting text. Boring, cut him off, waffle that none of us understand. I obviously took a bit of bruising to the old ego as I read this, but I checked the time, and this text was sent while Matt Hancock was speaking, and it concludes, which will now make sense, it now concludes, get Theo back on, he talks my language. I don't know quite what that means, Theo Usherwood, given that you and Matt Hancock both speak English, but clearly your clarity of expression is considered superior by our anonymous correspondent.
I wanted to pick up on a point made by Steve Harding, who tweeted me, and he wanted to know why in the northeast, which is in tier 3, the R rate is on average lower and the growth rate of COVID-19 per day is at a lower rate compared to London, which is of course in tier 2. And that picks up on the point that you raised just before the break about the explanations, the rationale the government has published. Because I think this is interesting. Just to give you the numbers.
And everyone can access this.
Everybody can access this, and I'll dig out a link and I'll put it on my Twitter. But by the way, all the tiers are. I've put them all on my Twitter because some people complain.
What's your Twitter handle, Theo?
Oh no, Jace, you can't. No, I was just What did this? It's at Theo Usher.
At Theo Usher.
So if you want to see which part of the country,
all the latest detail is there. And also it's worth following Theo for the banter.
So the R rate in the northeast in Yorkshire is 1 to 1.1. The growth rate per day is between 0 and +2. In London, the R rate is 1 to 1.2. So it's slightly up, and the growth rate per day is 0.3. So then we move on to the rationale. Why is London in a lower tier compared to the northeast? And in the northeast, the government's saying the region continues to see very high case rates, overall 318,000 per 100,000. So that, of course, is basically saying, okay, the R rate may be higher, maybe higher, but the actual number of cases is higher, which is a point that you've made repeatedly, James, on your show. In Humber, Yorkshire, of course, the picture in Humber is improving, with case rates now falling in 3 of the 4 local tier authorities. However, case rates in all ages in the over 60s remains very high, 431,000 per 100,000. And then you move on to London, where the trajectory of key indicators of COVID-19 in the area in all age case rates, over 60 case rates, and positivity have been increasing until very recently. The situation in London is not uniform throughout the city. 13 of the 13 boroughs have case rates which are 10% or more higher than a week ago, and 10 boroughs where case rates of over 60s are above 150 per 100,000. So the point that you can take from looking at that is that whilst the R rate and the growth rate may be higher, the actual number of cases in London is only half what it is in the northeast. Yes. So that's the purpose, that's the purpose of publishing the rationale, to try and explain, all people can access that information as to why the government has made the decisions that it's